I have the right agenda.
All right.
It's 7 o'clock on Thursday, March 19th, and I will call the Finance Committee a meeting to order. It is a hybrid meeting, which is being recorded. I have with me in the room, John Croft, Andy Olderman, Maury Creighton, Peter Twining, Gar Morse, and myself, Sarah Mellish. Dean Nahadas indicated he might be joining a little late. And we also have Tony Glenletter, the town administrator. Is Andrea not coming?
She is, she's.
Okay. And
Printing.
Andrea Mainville, finance director, will be here shortly. Is it okay if we start?
Yes.
Okay. So the first item on the agenda is the fiscal year 27 budget. To the best of my knowledge, we don't have open items. Is that correct? Has anything opened?
I know, just on the budget, I don't think there's anything,
Okay.
anything that's changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next was the fiscal year 26 snow removal budget. It's my understanding that Andrea was working on something. I'm not sure what.
She was putting together, trying to get kind of more of an accurate number as to where we are with our snow and ice spending. I know it was in the 200,000 range that she mentioned last meeting, and I know she was printing out some information on that just now, so.
Okay. So
So the question was, I think, whether we are going to address some or all of that at this year's town meeting, or whether we, if we wanted to use free cash, we would have to do that. If we weren't using free cash, we could deal with it at the end of the year with year-end transfers. So I believe that was the analysis that she was working on.
yeah, I think she was gonna look and see how much she thought she might have for year-end transfers and whether she thought there was enough.
Mhm.
Okay. And then we also had an issue on unpaid bills. Apparently some bills just came in.
Well,
Fiscal year
yeah,
25.
so it's the gentleman who does IT or visual, at
Video.
audio at town meeting.
Yep.
And he has not submitted the bills to us yet.
Oh,
And it's possible, that, when he bills us for this year, he'll include that amount. We'll deal with it at that point. But there was also, he also mentioned to Christine that he may not charge us this year either. So we might end up getting the service for free at the end of the day, but trying to get some invoices from him and.
Do you have any ballparks of, are we talking about $8 million or $2,000?
I think it was closer to the $2,000 range.
That's better.
That might be per, I think that might be per meeting, and I think it was this past town meeting and the previous that he hadn't billed us for. So it could be 4,000. She'll have a better idea. Andrea, yeah. But we might end up getting,
Be fine.
he may be volunteering.
He may be.
so what's our cutoff date on that?
Well, in theory, it could be something that we voted on, right before town meeting. We have an article for prior year bills, so.
Right, and we have items on it, is my understanding.
Right, so,
This meeting has basically until May. Well, April, end of April.
April 27th at
Right.
6 PM. I mean, we're obviously would want to get it we could give them a more aggressive deadline and say, if you don't get it to us by this
Right.
date, we're not gonna be able to take it up at town meeting, so you're gonna have to wait
Yeah.
until next year.
I mean, I would just think as policy, I mean, the town has so many vendors they're working with all over the place. There's gotta be a policy that
We
you
do.
don't get your bill in by time. That's tough luck. I mean, running a meeting or getting voters together, or jumping through all these hoops to pay a bill is unreasonable.
Yeah, it's the tough luck part of it isn't that we can say we're not gonna pay you, it's just that you're gonna have to wait until next year's town meeting
Right.
for us to take this up. So either get it to us now so we can pay you sooner.
Yep.
Or you're gonna have to wait another year.
Exactly.
So we'll circle around on that when Andrea gets you. That brings us to the warrant.
There's nothing in the warrant about the senior center.
There is.
There is.
That's when we'll be discussing. See, Article 5. That's good. So we had expected that the select board was gonna vote on this on Monday, but you're indicating they did not do so.
They are going to approve the warrant for posting on the 30th. We did discuss, the senior center and some of the other items on here, CPC, they voted in favor of all the CPC articles. We're just waiting for final feedback from bond counsel and legal counsel. The only other, changes may be coming is a reordering of the capital items. But I can make those before the 30th. Obviously, we need to have that finalized before we send the book to print on the 26th. So,
Next week. I think that's next week.
yep. So, right now, it's really just kind of the rhythm of the meeting. And right now it goes PFAS, then Tappan Street, then Culver, then dredging, then Rotunda. And I was talking with Ann today about potentially moving Tappan down and moving the others up.
Is that because you're trying to get all the water-based projects clustered together?
Well, more so, I guess, putting them somewhat in order of our capital priorities. I mean, as we talked about, they're all priorities. There's really no wiggle room on any of these, but Tappan Street might be the one that is at the bottom of all the
Right.
things that have to happen.
Yep.
So just thinking about like momentum of the town meeting discussion and then how they're presented that way is how they'll be presented on the ballot too.
Makes sense.
Let's circle back around now that Andrea is here. Snow removal budget, fiscal year 26. What are your thoughts on that?
It looks like we're estimated about $250,000 over what we budgeted,
Over what we budgeted?
over what we budgeted.
So it's 250 plus the 140?
Mhm.
390?
So, yeah.
Snow got expensive.
Sorry.
I don't like the bill I have it.
Oh.
3 times less.
And we're hoping we don't have an April Fool's storm again,
Right.
right?
So what are our thoughts of how we're dealing with that?
So,
What are your thoughts? I'm asking Andrea about the snow budget.
Yeah.
Okay, how we're paying it.
Well, my thoughts is,
This is for this year we've already spent the money.
I understand.
so my thoughts are to take it from free cash. I know that'll lower our percentage a little bit, but we just had a department head meeting today and we talked to departments about making sure they don't spend. But just in case, it would be helpful if we did have an article at town meeting to fund that snow and ice deficit, because I don't want to have to raise it on the recap. And then also get hit on free cash anyway.
And we know we have 50,000 from the schools, right? We appropriated 50,000 more than we
Right,
needed,
right,
right? So we
yes.
know that's going to free cash.
Right.
Yes.
So, and then we also have the legal deficit that we'll need to provide for as well, so. So I'm trying to make sure we have enough.
Do you
money
think,
to-
you would cover all of that 250 with free cash or just a portion of it?
I was looking at all of it.
I guess. You know, the only issue is you pull it out of free cash, and if you have extra money in the budget, it goes back into free cash, so,
Right.
Mhm.
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well,
Yes, Dean?
yeah, so I'm wondering if we shouldn't just, I mean. The snow removal budget is something we can overspend by state law. There is some provisions,
Right.
as long as we do the 5-year average.
But what Andrea said is we can go into a deficit, but they also put a hold on that portion from free cash, so you're double encumbering the money. So it makes more sense to allocate it from free cash at the town meeting.
But it seems like we have the ability to overspend this budget and take it from next year. We've increased the budget for next year or this year at this town meeting because of the 5-year average.
No,
And
we have,
perhaps we'll have less,
we didn't change the snow removal budget for fiscal year 27.
so that was where we should have.
It
probably
was the
just-
same in 26. And what Andrea is saying, yes, we can wait and pay it out of the next year's budget. However, if we do that, the state also puts a hold on that amount in free cash. So why not just allocate it out of free cash?
If we have to put a hold on it, it's just the same as spending it.
Yeah, that's kind of, I didn't realize that,
That's how they do it, okay.
It's really they're incentivizing you to provide for it, and not, take from next year's budget. They really want you to provide for it in the fiscal year that you expend it.
Makes sense.
so is that an article that's not here yet? I didn't see it, but I might have missed
Yeah,
it.
It's, I believe it says like a transfer from, you didn't specifically say snow and ice, I don't think.
Article 15,
they're on release.
to supplement certain line items.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
I personally would find it helpful to have that be specific.
Me too.
I don't want to have to stand up in town meetings, say, okay, the line item is, I mean, I'd rather have it in the warrant so people are aware in advance.
I know this is kind of a long range question, but how do you think we're looking for free cash finishing up this year? I know we're early in receipt season, but
Yeah, we
You know,
had
we always-
50,000 from the schools because the final appropriation was 50,000 less.
right. But I'm thinking more on the town operating
Right.
side, expenses, revenues. Do you think we'll be putting the typical amount into free cash? It kind of rolls in every year, kind of consistent.
I think so. I think it'll be similar to last year. It wasn't as much as in previous years.
Yeah.
But it'll be similar,
About 300,000.
yes.
Yeah.
Like 200 to 300,000, yes,
And you said we're over on the legal budget also.
correct.
So is that
Yes.
in this Article 15 too?
It is not, because
Okay,
I'm assuming that I'm gonna have enough money in other budgets to cover that
okay,
deficit. But I won't have enough money to cover that deficit and the snow and ice deficit.
okay. I mean, I think snow and ice is not a surprise to people. Yeah.
Unless they've not been here all winter.
Okay. The other item was the fiscal year 25 unpaid bills. Tony indicated that perhaps we're still missing the one from the AV person.
Yeah, he hasn't responded, so. So, well, you only have a certain amount of time to get it to us, so.
Right, he has responded about town meeting though, right?
He has.
Okay.
Responded about town meeting, but not about his prior year bills, so I think he understands that since he did not follow up with us after we reached out to him.
Yeah.
But, you know, we did our part.
Right.
So Sarah, can we recommend to like, make these expenditures through free cash and just move on?
No, if we don't have the bills in, we're not paying, it will wait till then, some town meeting after we receive the bills.
Okay,
We
so,
don't know what the bills are.
but then we won't have that article then?
We will, because I have
We have
two other,
others.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
others that we
all
know.
of these type of things I would vote to spend out of free cash and just move on.
You don't know what the amount is.
We have
One
other
we
two
have.
that we've,
We have.
yeah,
The ones that we have.
Which article is that?
3.
yes,
And what's the-
It's
what's
like
the
right at the
number?
very beginning.
$1,897.
Okay.
Would you like that article to be specific as well?
You can,
Yeah, so
That one, it does mention prior year bills.
it says prior year bills, but it doesn't say
the amount.
No.
the amount from where to where. So if we do
It's paid
that,
From,
that
Right.
mean, so basically that means if he doesn't give us the invoice by next meeting, next Thursday, it's not getting on this warrant. Cause if it's not here, it's
Book's going to print.
book's going.
I just find it difficult to have articles that say appropriate, transfer, et cetera.
Right.
If it's prior year bills, let's be specific as to where we're
May-
paying them from.
Maybe this AV bill is low enough, we can cover it in the FinCom reserve.
No, we have to appropriate it at a town meeting, and we can't appropriate a bill when we don't know the amount and don't have it. We can't spend money unless the town meeting approve.
Well, we can just
expenditure of
spend
the
our
dollar amount.
FinCom reserve.
No,
Not on
it
a
has to
prior
be
year.
appropriated money.
Okay, so we've expended our FinCom reserve for.
We have not. We've spent,
When you get- when you get-
13,000.
when you get an invoice from a previous fiscal year,
Yeah.
state law requires it to be appropriated at town meeting with a 4/5 vote. So
Okay,
so it's not something that you can handle with a transfer.
Okay, because I
Unless
thought
it
we
was-
had a wild card in our FinCom.
Only if it
reserve.
was in the same fiscal year could you do that.
okay. Now we go back to the warrant. In Article 4, you'll have the whole thing in.
Yes.
Which brings us to Article 5. Capital items. Which includes a new entry for the senior center. And I think you have something about that to discuss with us.
Yeah, so I hope you had the opportunity to take a look at the email that I had sent yesterday or the day before that provided some attachments. So essentially where we are with the senior center, we went through a process of design, stakeholder involvement, and put that conceptual design to a professional construction bidding firm. And they came back with a $7 million plus estimate. Obviously significantly higher than assumptions of the cost. And as you can see in the other attachment that I provided of different DPW facilities and the square footage and how that has grown, I think that weighs into a lot of why that cost estimate has grown. So we looked at that and said, okay, we need to kind of go back to the drawing board and see how can we potentially scale back the approach on this development, and what would those cost savings potentially be? What would the, what space would we be losing? How would that work with the programming approach? And long story short, it really didn't provide enough value for the amount of space that you lost, whether you avoided doing the Towns addition or you avoided doing the Masons addition and moving the Masons in to maintain their square footage, or you eliminated both additions and just did everything within the existing square footage. I think the most we brought it down to was still in the $5 million range,
So,
5.3.
so I'm surprised that we're including the Mason section in our numbers. Because it was my understanding that when we presented the $1 million cost to the town last year, that we had raised the price from 750 to $1 million because the Masons wanted to build out their own space. Has that changed?
No, that hasn't changed.
So this pricing is not accurate because it includes the Masons. So it's overstated a little bit.
Well, this
Okay.
pricing includes the build out of the addition from studs out. So that's always been, my understanding is the cost of the Masons would basically do everything from
Inside.
studs in. And then as we, in a couple examples where we eliminated the Masons addition, we factored that in. So when we talked with the select board and reviewed these options and essentially decided that you really aren't capturing the scale back version at this point, at these numbers, wasn't providing the value that we were hoping for. And we said, well, if we continue with option one, we really want to expand the use of this future facility. What other department or departments could we have under this roof, and what other types of programming could we use? So we decided that we would stick with concept plan number one, which is at the 7.2. And again, this is at a 10% conceptual design. And the use of the space would be primarily, or, number one, for the seniors, but when the seniors aren't using the space, that it opens up for community use. We've heard a lot from the community about how, since the community center has gone away, that there's that missing element in our town. So it also provides for intergenerational programming, and we could move some of the offices potentially here over to the Masons building, freeing up space here that helps us with potentially moving people out of Seaside 1 and bringing them here. So it kind of has some additional benefits. The other thing that was, really important to the select board was that, we see progress on closing of the property. Jim's here from the Masons. We've been on the phone multiple times a day for the last couple of weeks. We're really, really close.
So we heard last year.
We are 99% there.
Yeah,
We're looking at tiny things now.
yeah. Our hope, when we met with the select board, the goal was town meeting. We're hoping to have it done prior to town meeting, hopefully in the next week or so. So then we went and took, once the select board agreed with that approach, we met with the Masons, made sure the Masons were okay with that. Of course, they were. They were very happy to see that we were including community space in this area, or as part of this concept. And we spoke with the Friends and the COA board as well. That was a little bit of a harder discussion. As you can tell, you know, the seniors have been pushing for a senior center for many, many, many years. And, you know, that was always their hope, but they understood when explaining to them the cost implications and how this will, you know, it's unlikely that fundraising is going to cover the full cost of this investment. So it's likely that the town is going to have to contribute to construction in the future. And if that's going to be the case, we really need to get more use out of the facility. And they were appreciative of that, they understood it, and they supported it. Now I was just with, you know, a few people from the Friends and a few people from the COA. That conversation we continue to have with larger groups. Of course, you know, there are folks who are, you know, still reluctant and really want it to be primarily a senior center, but I think they understand, you know, as long as the seniors come first, as far as the time and use of the space. And it's a collaboration really, especially now with COA, Recreation Department and Public Health all kind of underneath one umbrella under the town, working closely together on how to best use that space. So the next big step is getting full design and basically bringing this to shovel ready. So that would be procurement documents, you know, soup to nuts. Our estimate for that is $350,000, well, $325 to $350. And because of that expanded use, Recreation Revolving becomes an eligible funding source for this design. As we talked about when Recreation Department was here in front of you, there is a decent amount of funds in the Recreation Revolving account that we want to spend on capital or other types of projects. Andrea can speak to those numbers if you have questions. So by using Recreation Revolving also doesn't impact the balance of our operational budget as well. It's probably about a 3 to 5 month process. So if this is approved, we wouldn't be able to spend the money until July 1st. As part of that, the select board felt it was important that we close on the property before investing additional funds into the future of the property. So technically, you know, and again, our goal is the next couple weeks, but technically we wouldn't be spending this money until July 1st anyways.
And would we not spend it if we haven't closed?
Correct. But certainly, you know, the Masons and the town both want to move to construction as soon as we possibly can. This is a step prior to that, so closing is a step prior to that. So we're trying to move things as fast as we can, but if it does slip, we wouldn't spend the money on the design until we close on the property.
Now, did this go through the Facilities Review Committee?
Facility planning? I don't think so.
Well, yeah, whatever that's called,
Yeah.
facility plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm concerned about the process. That this is has not been on our capital plan. There's nothing for the senior center, or community center on our capital plan. I thought an agreement was made that projects would be reviewed by this, facilities planning committee before they moved forward. And so now we have a project that's being moved forward from people outside of town government. I mean, it's Friends of the COA, isn't it?
I don't know if I would characterize it that way.
I mean, who's leading it up?
Me. I mean, it's really been something that was transferred to me when I started as a priority of the select board and the previous town administrator, and obviously the Friends and the COA board as well. I don't know why once the town agreed to purchase or move forward with purchasing the property, it didn't make its way onto the,
Because of what town wasn't gonna put
Capital plan.
any more funds into it. It's the reason it's not on there. If the total amount, when the million was raised at last year's town meeting, it was stated that that would be the only amount cost borne by the town, that everything else would be covered by donations, because the expectation was it was gonna cost 3 million, not 6 or 7 million. I mean,
right,
you know. So it was kind of being all handled outside of town finances, except for the acquisition cost. I think that's kind of. the
I,
challenge
I
with
agree with Sarah. I think the process does not coincide with the mission of the finance committee. I don't impugn the intentions of everybody involved. Tony, you walked in, you had an idea what you were walking into this place. I mean, it's amazing. I think everybody has great intentions, but speaking in my humble experience as a project financial person, the way this has come together seems like, well, we have an ever expanding bucket and we need to find things to fill the bucket in order to justify carrying the bucket. That's a poor metaphor, but in my fond desire, I'd say, go back and start and come back to us next fall or whenever we start meeting with a plan that holds together. You know what we're building. You have a contract with a contractor who's gonna build it for a fixed price, ideally.
They can't do that until we appropriate money. That's
Okay, well,
22.
okay, set that aside for a second. And here are the sources of the funds. It sounds like, I mean, it's a very pedestrian approach to life, obviously, but I don't see a process that is what I thought these people are not, we're not supposed to be making decisions about whether or not we have a senior center. I don't think. I think there's other folks in town who are supposed to do that. I mean, I'm a senior. I mean, I love it. It is great, but the way this thing has come together, the process, and it's not your fault at all. I mean, you walked in and you've done an admirable job of dealing with this, but I think that it's a flawed situation we have. And do we sort of shrug and go, oh, what the hell? Let's go ahead and do it. That's kind of what it seems like we're doing here, but
I think
stop.
Go
when,
ahead, Mo. Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we all think about things personally, and then we all think about things as members of this committee. And, personally, I've been hearing about senior center for years, and I think it is of vital importance to the town. And there are things that I think about one way, but when I put the lens on of how we're supposed to behave and what we're supposed to do on this committee, we have to sometimes think differently from that. And I would agree that this has sort of moved through in a difficult way. I am fundamentally very concerned that we are spending more money on something that has not been signed. And I know it's been working, and you highlighted it a few meetings ago, Tony, where you said this is a complicated one because, we've got a town, we've got a private entity, we've got a nonprofit, we've got a wetland, we've got it's like the worst combination of everything happening.
registered land.
And what that translates to is more timeline to get things done right. And so I am concerned about spending more money on this without a signed document, which is really, I think, a hurdle. So I would say if we can get this thing signed before town meeting, that's maybe a discussion for the revolving fund, but I have concerns about this as well.
I think, the other is a transparency issue. If the town voted on one set of facts and circumstances and those have changed materially, and have to go back to the town and say, things have changed. Here's what's changed, here's why, here's what we did. Now here's the new plan.
Well, and I
If you kind
think,
of sneak it in the capital budget, like, oh, just another item.
yeah, I think we need to have, I mean, what we've been working on this year is for each of the capital items. We've kind of incorporated it into a longer term cost. And I think that we would need to do that, include this in that whole spreadsheet we're working on, so that before we could vote on it, so that we could understand what it's adding to the tax rate, just like we've done for each of the other projects, when the bond would hit, you know, et cetera. Just so we have the financial information that we have on all the other capital projects that we're including.
Yeah, I would
in the
just-
budget.
I just would put this more in the category of this is spending on design, like Bennett Street, or if we were putting money towards design of Gravelly Pond. It's not until that design is completed that you know what the potential cost implications are gonna be, and then you kind of fit that into that estimated debt schedule.
No, we don't know what each of those projects is actually gonna cost us. And I think 350,000 and 50,000 last year, 400,000 is much more in design than we've ever been asked for in advance for a project before. Usually we appropriate money, which includes preparing the construction documents as part of the overall project. I mean, Bennett Street, we're talking maybe 100,000. This is 4 times that amount. This is a big number.
It is a big number.
And that's what concerns me is, do we have the cart ahead of the horse? We're spending all of this money on something we don't own. And we don't really know what the plan is. We don't have any type of letter of intent commitments from the people who we expect to donate to cut down on the cost. And my concern is you move forward with a project with town funds, and doesn't that decrease the incentive for donations? I would think it would.
Susan Beckman might be on the call. Yes, she is. She's kind of heading up the fundraising arm side of it, so she could probably speak to that. I think I would guess she probably would say that momentum builds momentum when it comes to fundraising, but
I'm here.
So, I
I'm
mean, I
trying-
think our concern is we're putting out a lot of money, and it seems like we have designs and we don't quite understand why the fundraising isn't further along.
Well, it's a complicated chicken and egg is probably the best way to put it. In order to effectively fundraise, you have to be able to identify how much you're fundraising for. So we started a process a year ago with a feasibility study that looked at the possibility of a $2.5 to $3 million opportunity. We went through the study, found out that we had the wherewithal to do that. We were hoping we could launch a capital campaign and get things moving. Obviously, everything was set on getting the signature for the deal to close. And we all know where that stands. So I think at this point, what we've started to do is have some quiet conversations with people around a letter of commitment, which we can't start a fund process yet. We're working with ECCF, who will help us manage this project. And we can't launch a capital campaign until a project is approved. That said, we can start with letters of commitment. And we are just starting those conversations now. So the hope is that we will have letters of commitment and understanding the importance of this for the community in conjunction with the parallel process of moving ahead with the design and then launching into the actual cost and the capital campaign. So it's a parallel process. The fundraising piece is a parallel process associated with this. But at the end of the day, you can't, it's very hard to ask people for money when you don't know the cost, you don't know a lot of other things. But I think people that have been following this along understand that a private-public relationship, when you're dealing with a municipality, a nonprofit, as well as trying to raise money publicly, it's a little complicated, but I think we've got a good message around that, and I'm pretty confident that we can move ahead with it. So that's sort of the general thing. The feasibility study did state that, you know, understanding Mass General law, you have to be able to fund the full amount to start construction. They felt pretty clearly that it would be an additive process. People would understand that the whole purpose of the fundraising is to raise money and the capital to pay back for the construction costs of the senior center / community space.
Thank you.
Hey, back home.
And we also applied this week, we applied for federal funding of 1.5 million for the senior center, and we applied for an earmark of 150,000 from Senator Tarr's office as well.
And they would
Would that
be
be-
for, they would be applied toward the construction.
Yeah, construction. See, the thing, design, we have to close in order to design.
Yep.
We have to design in order to save money and potentially ask, you know, to do fundraising and to ask the town to contribute to construction.
Mhm.
And, you know, to speak for the Masons too, you know, this deal with the town isn't to have the building sit for a long period of time. The goal is to get the construction built as soon as possible. And as you can see from cost, you know, the cost chart that I showed you,
Yeah.
that just compounds every day it goes by. So hopeful that, you know, if we can maybe, I'd have to ask legal as far as how a motion could be read, but if there was like a contingency on the 350 that it's not spent unless we
Close
on the property, if we aren't closed by that time, would that make the finance committee feel a little bit more comfortable?
Why should we spend $350,000 of the town's tax money if we don't know where the rest of the money is coming from?
Well, we want to get it to shovel ready so that we can get fundraising, and then when it comes time.
So the rest of the money is gonna come from fundraising.
No, likely the town's gonna have to contribute to the cost of the construction. The fundraising, the feasibility study that was done a year ago projected 3 million over 3 years. This obviously exceeds that amount, so
Right.
that's why the select board felt it was important to expand the use. If the town was gonna put more money into this, after saying that we weren't, you know, what else can we provide the town for that contribution? And that's where the expanded use conversation really came into
So
play.
we're coming up with an answer to that question, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that once we have it fully designed and have a better cost estimate of the project, and we know a higher level of commitment on the fundraising side, that tells us, okay, how much are we gonna be asking the town to contribute? And then we ask the town, and if the town says no, we have to think about scaling back. We have to think about asking again. We have to think about saying, okay, if we're not gonna do either of those two things, then maybe we have to ask the town to authorize us to sell the property back. You know, there's no reason to hold on to it if we're not gonna invest. So. But all of that is predicated on closing and getting the design completed.
And when you look at the construction cost. Where should, we worked hard to fit out a sort of a debt schedule for quite a number of years. Where should we be fitting that? I mean, we've got, I guess, $6-7 million we need to fit into that picture. That's
I mean, I would
3 years away?
if we close on the property and we're able to start the design in July, it'd be completed before the end of the year. So we'd have that number. I would have to defer to Susan to ask, how much time do you think the fundraising needs to get solid commitment? So let's say the earliest we could ask the town for construction money coupled with fundraising would be the spring of next year. And then you have, well, Essex Elementary likely would be the fall of this year. So then we would go through the same process that we've done as far as are we doing, how it impacts the debt.
Yeah.
It does seem like ought to be in its own article. Just to kind of give it a fair reading and full understanding.
Yeah,
And it also seems like it would be useful to kind of fold it into DPW's, put it under their attention, for basic project management, just as we have been with other.
yeah, and I should have done that when we got the $7 million estimate and had the conversation with the select board, and there was a commitment to potentially, using town funds for this expanded use. That at that point, I should have known to add it to the facility planning committee.
Yeah.
So we did give.
It's not too late, but sorry, Dean, but but it is like the condo aspect, the private public thing just is like this incredibly complicated twist to the whole thing. The prevailing wage versus non-prevailing wage, and who builds what, and I leave that there. We're paying prevailing wage to build both additions, I presume, just for the simplicity of having that one contractor. But then that's a premium, for the Masons portion, albeit a small addition, but it's all square footage. So anyway.
I'd like to see the project keep moving. I think it's important. I favor the larger footprint. I think that's minimum required. I'd like to have more confidence in the process. Like when I first saw the layout, the first thing that hit me is that it would be much better for the seniors if you switched the function room with the office space, so that you'd have a big room overlooking the porch and the parking lot rather than in the back corner. That seemed like a very basic thing that I was surprised nobody had seen. I also question, a lot of these.
Dean, we don't want to be designing this building in the finance committee.
No, let me finish though. It's related to how it's funded, attracting investors. I think if you have something more appealing, you'll get more investors. I also think,
some of that, Dean, was where the existing, it's a slab foundation, and we're to try to save costs and, digging up the foundation to move utilities. The kitchen is staying where the kitchen is, the mechanic room is staying where the mechanic is.
yeah.
Start shifting all that stuff to the.
Yeah, no, it's just shifting the function room with the office. It was a very basic, I have a sketch I did. I also think the kitchen you might want to enlarge, because a lot of these things can get funding through having dinners and banquets and stuff. And that kitchen looked a little small for the size building. So that's, I think we can fund a lesser amount for maybe a 75% design to keep it going. And maybe like the DPW had a pretty good miscellaneous building budget, like 75 grand, that maybe that could be used for some of this design. I know we had given Nate 50 grand last year to work on, well, I guess the layout that we have. You know, and we have things like 16K for DPW for signs that may be more appropriate to spend keeping the senior center going.
Signs were through CPC.
Yeah,
Well, I mean.
it's money. So these are the
You make
things,
Things too complicated.
well, it's a
We are-
complicated process.
1 week away from needing to finalize the annual report.
Yeah.
It's not our job to redesign things. I'm more than happy to have every individual on the finance committee give their input
Yeah.
to the people doing the design.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's appropriate to do it in a finance committee meeting. We'll never end our meetings.
Right. Well, I'm using a lot less time than others, but the last thing, I think our whole budget is under review because what's obvious is that there's a huge tariff spike right now and that we should be minimizing what we spend right now and trying to defer things because of the cost
Okay,
of the
thank you.
tariffs.
We have approved the budget for fiscal year 27. We are not going to reopen it and start over again. We worked on it for 6 months.
Well, there's town meeting.
So just,
Go ahead,
just a
Lauren.
thought process here. I mean, we're looking at about a $7 million project. We're talking about needing a design to get a better cost estimate. And then we're talking about the town putting up money to do this with the hope that donations will come in later to pay the town back. And I will.
Contribute to construction.
Yeah, and I will say from volunteer stuff I've done in the nonprofit sector, it's very hard to fund something that's already been done. It's just a reality. Everybody says, well, somebody else has covered it. I'm going to move on. Can we switch this around a little bit? And I know it runs the risk of making the project take longer and costs are going up, but what if you did a design for shovel ready? And then you said, let's take 24 months and figure out how much money we can raise. And based on the amount of money raised, the town looks at it and says, okay, we'll add to that and try and do 7 million, or we'll try and scale back to 5 million, or we'll do that, you know, based on what community support brings in on this. And the reason I say that is, I mean, we're voting about $30 million worth of capital in a couple of weeks. And before this next Christmas and New Year's comes along, we've got Essex Elementary. And I think the town residents, you know, are committed to this, but these are big numbers. And I feel like the story needs to be a little better. And the story, if it's like, we've gone out and fundraised for this thing for 24 months and we've raised $3 million or $2 million, and the town comes back and says, okay, let's add 4 to that. I think we're going to be in a better place in trying to
So
talk
I
this
think-
through, but
I don't think that changes our approach. I think, you know, we can make that, if we close and have the funds to do the design.
Mhm.
And come springtime, we haven't raised a lot of money. In this room, when we're talking about whether we want to put that on the warrant or, you know, include it, that we can make that decision at that time and say it's not ready yet, right? That's why I think, you know, it's kind of that's the process actually. So I don't know if asking the town for construction funds, if we're gonna be ready in the spring or not, you know, based on how much fundraising or if the grants have come in yet. Obviously, we would hope, but that's something that I would think would fall through, you know, the process that we go through on all of our capital projects.
Go ahead,
Just
Andy.
as a point of comparison with, like what happens with the school projects when they're funded through the state is, you know, and what we've done with Essex is we funded this feasibility study phase, which gets the project up through schematic design, with the idea that there's a careful process of looking at options and then ultimately choosing the preferred approach. And then that's what gets established during, you know, schematic design. And the budget that happens at schematic design then becomes the project budget that gets voted upon by the municipalities. And that's your kind of go forward, and that establishes your budget for the project period. And I thought at one point, we were talking about this months ago, that we were really talking about, needing to like prepare renderings, because there was a desire to have renderings, for the use of fundraising, which is, understandable kind of need. And so I know we're, so there's a lot of support for the project that exists, and I respect that, but I also I'm worried that we're trying to, present a process that respects a spaced down schedule, like optimizing the schedule, and I'm not sure that's going to be the most cost-effective approach for the project in the end. Just to say that. So this looks like almost like a schematic design level of documentation that we have here today. And it's really, it's enough information to be able to choose an option, it feels like. So I'm wondering, do we need to do final design right now? Do we need to be authorizing that?
Well, this is, this cost estimate is really,
High level.
high level.
Yeah.
And I think that having a truer cost estimate is going to give us the ability to make decisions about when and how we fund construction. So delaying that just delays the next part of the process. That's how and to your point, I guess I feel like the first part of the process that you illustrated with Essex, I feel like that was, the town deciding to, purchase the building and saying, this is where we're going, so. I feel like we're in that part 2 or 3 of the process you outlined.
Is there a contingency with the 3.7 million estimate? Because usually a preliminary estimate would have something like a 30% contingency assigned to it.
Yeah, if you scroll to the next slide there. Yeah, the table. So what's that, slide 5?
Yes, slide 5.
Contingencies are included there, I believe.
Must be down at the bottom.
Glasses are too.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm trying to get the mouse to get out.
We actually, this, the fund, the construction estimator came back with a lower number because they're just looking at, what's the cost of these trades at a square foot price, and doing that. And then they took that and baked in soft costs and contingencies. I'm not sure if it's.
There is a
labeled.
Nate line down there. He had 100
In-house OPM offset.
in-house OPM offset, so that means doing it in-house as opposed to an outside.
And just to be clear, this also doesn't include the acquisition cost. And to be fair, I think it should. If we're talking the total cost, we should be including the acquisition cost.
I just go back
So
and
it's
say,
$8 million rather than $7 million.
I just go back and say this isn't ready. I don't think it's fair to ask the finance committee to endorse this plan, because I don't think it's a plan. I think it's a first step. But as John said, we told the town a year ago, put up the $1 million, that's it. I think it's puts your volunteer finance committee in an awkward position to now go back and say, well, we don't know how much it's going to cost, and we don't know where the money's coming from, but we know most of it's going to be coming from you, taxpayers. How do you like it? And they may say, fine, we don't care. Go ahead and start spending. Just raise our taxes. But we say, oh, by the way, we're also floating another 30 million in bonds.
I think that's part of the discussion. If we split this out into another article or speak, you know, which is fine. I think we have to have that discussion at town meeting is that, you know, this 350 is for a project that's estimated at 7.1. We already have one, you know, invested. And it's likely that we are gonna be coming back to the town for some sum of money. Because private fundraising isn't gonna raise 7.1.
Well, you know, I agree. I have to disagree with you.
That's okay.
They, you don't want to, Bill, over at Powder House. That came on the market. What's her name? Franny Colburn decided to sell it. And she sold it for a bargain price. But the boys that were doing that, not me, but a bunch of guys went out and said, we got to raise $1.5 million. It took them about 3 weeks. Seriously. They went up and down Masconomo Street, not where I live, but fancy neighborhoods, and they raised it. So the town's capacity for generosity is breathtaking. I still go back to Lindsay Coolidge, who built the building next door here, that stone edifice that we, you know, use for books. And he wrote a check. Now that was a very long time ago, but you know, you could argue that there are folks of that kind of capacity around. So when somebody says we can't raise the money, well, you haven't even asked yet. So I think we got to reorder the process. Anyway.
Go ahead, John.
Yes, Madam Chair. So I'm speaking as the liaison to the seniors for the select board. And I see them every week. And of course, you know, the question that comes up every week, where do things stand with all of this? Things have changed so dramatically over the last 3 months. And the cost of this going from 3 million to doubling in a space of like, 2 years or so, really changes the whole thought process that's involved here. I agree with Maury's comment of, I don't know, it was a half an hour ago or 45 minutes ago, that if we don't have a signed deal for all of this, a lot of this discussion certainly by the annual meeting, but perhaps before this book is printed, this is kind of a moot discussion. We really have to have a signed deal. And when's this go to print? In a week?
Yes,
Next weekend.
Hey,
next Thursday.
all right, okay. So,
We've been talking every
Yeah.
day and just going back and forth.
okay, well, I would put an asterisk next to it, next to the line item, whether it becomes a separate article or it's part of Article 5 here. Is that either one? I'm okay with either one, but there has to be an asterisk next to it, and maybe none if it gets signed by then, so that it becomes a topic of discussion. But you know, Susan has been working hard in terms of, well, what's the potential for raising money? And for 3 million, I understand that was not too difficult a challenge with regard to the studies that she did. Now it's double that. This town, as Gar has mentioned, has a tremendous capacity to give. And maybe that hits, and we've got to kind of figure this out. This is a fluid project as it goes along. We don't know whether we're going to have to ask the town for anything. Maybe we'll get all 6 million, maybe we'll only get 4 million. I think that's a little bit up in the air. We don't know, but certainly the town has a dog in the fight, not only because of the $1 million, but you know, there'll be a couple of town offices that are in this building as well. And all of that becomes, you know, changes the overall definition of what this building will be going forward. So there are a lot of different folks that are involved in this and players that will benefit from this building when it's finalized.
Yeah, could you just state your full name for the record?
James Brown,
Yep.
Representing the Masons, from Essex, Massachusetts. My understanding was that the 7 million was a very high number. I mean, that's almost $1,000 per square foot. And when I talked to contractors, which I do regularly, they were like, that's crazy. That's like twice what this really should come in at. And I mean, high-end stuff is $500 per square foot. Can we talk about that? Like,
Yeah, prevailing wage is a factor in that, but also when you go to a construction estimator, especially with a 10% conceptual design, not having gone into the building yet and look at, you know, what things will be taking on, they're going to come in high. You know, the worst thing a construction estimator can do is come in low. So we do expect or anticipate that this number is high if we were to go out to bid today. If we're going out to bid a year, 2 years, 3 years from now,
might not be that far off.
And I see it in here that, you know, the building structure hard cost is 4 million and they have soft costs and contingency at 2 million. So there's a pretty good number.
Ann?
I'd like to correct something that Mr. Morse suggested. The 350 that we're suggesting is not coming from taxpayer money. It's coming from surplus revenues from the Parks and Rec Department. Parks and Rec Department will benefit from this building a lot. So when you say you're asking the taxpayers to fund design, no, we are asking the Parks and Rec to fund the design.
And how did the Parks and Recs get the 350
Fees,
from
programs,
Residents.
taxpayers?
no, people who sign up for programs. That is, this is not.
Yeah, well, I think we're dicing the salami a little thin here.
This is not tax dollars.
It's not forced payment.
Andrea, how much is in that revolving account?
Right now, Michelle's been doing really good collecting for.
Oh, you're gonna go on today's number?
It's about like $800,000 right now.
How much is required to run the program?
We really need like 300 to, because we've taken a lot right now, that we will
Yep.
spend over.
The lowest month might be 300 to 350.
Well, we like to keep the
Because-
300
yeah.
turnover, yeah.
You know,
This is a little confusing because that revolving fund could be used for some other Parks and Recs thing, which would offset taxpayer contributions.
Bathhouse.
Yeah, so, you know, this is definitely a gray area here, and I'm not sure we get anywhere by saying it's not taxpayer money or it is taxpayer money. It's all in the pool here, so.
Fungible.
Yeah, basically. But-
Well, remember, we did talk when I was here doing my budget, we can't use it for the bathhouse. But it has to be program related. So the
Okay.
recreation side.
But for example, like if we had to redo turf field or something
Yes,
like
we
that,
have used it for that
which is a
before.
big one, and that comes rolling up every 7 years or something. That, I mean, it's an offset,
Right,
so.
so we did, just we used it for the street.
But also, you're gonna be increasing your programs.
Right,
Once, you know, once
Right,
the building
so it
is
is an
done.
investment in our programs.
I think the bathhouse is a recreation facility because we get most of our income through Singing Beach.
Well, it's a separate budget, we don't do programs.
But that's just accounting. I think that money can ultimately be used for a bathhouse if we want.
It's a legal thing.
No, it's the way the revolving fund is set up, it's just for programs.
Then we
Or
could
Singing-
use a revolving fund. That's
But the Singing Beach money doesn't go into the revolving fund. I mean, we could have a beach revolving fund, I guess.
No,
Yeah.
no.
No, no. Definitely
Scary.
different.
So Andrea, sort of a mechanical question, or Tony, if we said, all right, let's try to use 350 of the revolving fund for this process, and there is not an agreement signed by printing of the book or town meeting, does that money go back to the revolving fund or does it go to free cash?
It goes to revolving fund.
Okay,
Would never be spent.
Come out.
I never spent it, yeah.
no, I'm just, there's money that gets allocated for things and then it doesn't get spent, we know where it goes, so I'm just asking, where does it go?
And Tony, picking up on this approach. If we get signed and we hadn't had the 350 and all of that, can the select board, can we get closer to the concept of looking how the fundraising is doing before we get into the construction? figuring out where this goes in the capital budget and all the capital projects that we've talked about so thoroughly, I just think the opportunity to, the 24 months, some period of time for fundraising, which gets suggested as being realistic, would be an important step before we go into construction and get in 7 million or 6 million, whatever the number turns out to be. Is that an acceptable, that there be a time period that we look at how the fundraising's doing over a realistic period of time before we all then commit or don't commit to another large borrowing of money?
I think I guess, yes, partially. I think that every prep season for town meeting, moving forward, we would look at where is the fundraising? What's the current cost estimate? What's the escalation from the last year? And have to do that analysis and decide, are we ready, to go to town meeting? If we go to town meeting, is it gonna stall fundraising? So we'd have to do that in the spring, and if not in the spring, then and we're gonna do a fall town meeting, we would have to do that analysis again. If not, then the following. Hopefully it's sooner than later, but I think we kind of go through that process.
Because I think we need to give the fundraising a real opportunity to demonstrate itself for all the reasons you've heard discussed. And I'm
Yeah.
very anxious to move forward with this. We've talked about it a long time. First thing we talked about when I got on the FinCom. But I want to be sure that there can be that time to get the fundraising, have a real opportunity to raise some material amount of money before we all get into then going back to the town and saying it's X now because we've raised some but not all. And does that work is the question.
I think the answer is yes. I think we're going through that process leading up to a town meeting and deciding whether it makes sense, whether it's ready for town meeting action or not, based on that and a number of other factors.
Yeah.
So would a potential solution be to fund a lesser amount now and look for progress before special town meeting and funding more? I mean, we don't have to do the whole 350 now, maybe we give them 50,000 or 100,000, and if we see progress at special town meeting, we can go again at that point.
What's the definition of project progress? I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
Some funding pledges, some better
fundraising.
estimates.
Between now
More
and
refined
town
design,
meeting.
they're gonna continue the design work is what, that would keep the project going. I don't recommend going to 100%, maybe 75%, because there might be more changes down the road. But enough to keep things rolling, is my concern, that if we don't do something now, that it's, not moving.
I don't agree, or see what that solves. I think that, we have the funds available, to spend. Keeping the progress moving forward at 50%, 75%, or 100%, I don't think that's gonna have a real factor. What level of design we're funding, I don't think is gonna have much of a factor on what fundraising comes in. And I think it just makes sense to keep the ball rolling, get this to shovel ready, and then you're evaluating what the true cost is and when or whether you're asking for how much to move into construction.
How did you come up with the 350,000?
I got a quote from John Harden, who did the conceptual design. Yeah, like I said, it might be closer to 325, but building a little extra in there.
That's their design fee, not construction admin services.
That's just to get us to procurement ready.
They had 350 in their estimate, their budget. In the table or design.
Estimated construction.
5%?
10% actually.
No, it's 5% of 7 million, right?
Well, the hard cost was like 4 million.
Oh, okay.
How big are bigger question is if we have this kind of money in reserves in the revolving fund, maybe we're charging too much in fees. I mean, if this is for playground services,
That's not up for discussion at this meeting.
Yeah.
That is nothing that the finance committee weighs in on.
the fees of the playground.
Correct.
I have another question for Andrea. So, Cheryl, if you have a really good year and a lot comes in from programs, that keeps building the revolving fund. And that's where it kind of lives, right? It doesn't shed out to other things. I mean, it's very narrowly, I'm thinking in the commercial world, like net income that goes in all into different directions. So how,
Are we paying 100% of the program director's salary out of it?
No, not the full-time program director. Can't pay full-time employees and benefits from that fund.
Could we fund the Pine Street lawn AED out of it? I mean,
so
We're not going, to, okay? I mean, I'm sorry, Dean.
yeah,
We-
well, these are just,
We
Let-
can't
let
be
Warren
throwing
finish
up
his
trial
question.
balloons.
So this is very insightful. Could we set a limit on the revolving fund and try to pull as much from it each year to cover as much of Cheryl's costs as possible?
We have
Could we-
There is a legal.
We have a
number
limit.
there, right?
Yeah, so,
550.
Okay, but right now we're at 700. Well, I know it's seasonal because you've got money coming in, you haven't spent it yet,
right,
but that's gonna float somewhere around 500 or 600, right?
right. And so every year in our local receipts and things, I actually transfer money from the revolving fund to help offset some of the
Okay,
program costs in her department.
got it.
It's just not like, it's one of those like indirect costs that's kind of built in the back.
Right.
It's like you do water and sewer. when you
Exactly, yes,
Transfer
yes,
stuff.
yeah. So, and I actually just increased that from 50 to 75,000.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Andy, what does the facilities committee do? I'm not sure I understand. I'd like to get this building into the regular part of the buildings of the town. If it were to get into that work, what is it? What's the function that we're doing? Setting priorities?
Well, it's looking at various projects like this, like, one of the primary focuses recently has been, the idea of a DPW facility, and potentially DPW plus public safety.
And is that setting priorities in terms of what things get addressed when?
Yeah, it's a lot of that kind of discussion. It's a lot of discussion about the mechanics of, what's the best way to go forward. So we talked a lot about, the same kind of thing that I mentioned tonight, the idea of, generating a schematic design that allows you to, develop a budget, and to be able to decide whether to move a project forward or not. Because, as you can see, there's a lot of slip and slide with these numbers, the 3 to 7 is that might not be the end of the story, just being realistic about it. And so, there's a lot of discussion about, site selection, like where can the thing go? What are the pros and cons of one site versus another? What are the pros and cons of doing DPW and then potentially later public safety, or what happens when you do them together? That's
And this exists outside of all of that
right.
consideration. I mean, this building,
Right.
this,
I honestly can't recall that we've talked about it.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it ought to get into that.
Yeah.
Get into that review and be part of, I mean, it's a town building or it's a town condo.
Yep.
It's, and how do we do that?
I do remember discussing it in one of the early facility planning meetings that I was a part of as a future project, but we didn't get into.
Just that, yeah, we
that
haven't really,
level of-
we haven't pulled it apart or
Yeah.
anything, we haven't really looked at anything. But like we talked about the addition over at the Lincoln Street well, that'll house the filtration for the PFAS. That's been a topic. So
Too late at this point to get into that?
I don't think so necessarily, and you know, and I would imagine, Tony, I mean, it looks like you've got a little bit of interaction with Nate in here and Chuck, I'm assuming, that have brought us to where we are. But yeah. I don't know that it would have brought us to a different place, but it's looking, the intent of the Facilities Planning Committee was to look at all these kinds of projects in context.
I think that's useful.
Yeah,
It seems to me we can put together some ideas here, that it needs to get into that process. If we don't think it's too late, I mean, you know, it's a build, it's a given. But, we understand that we're gonna take a look at this when you do some serious fundraising over some reasonable period of time. We understand that the money's not gonna get spent unless the building gets purchased. I mean, there's some conditions on the.
Well, and I think that it's not gonna be spent till July 1st, so there's time for the Facilities Planning Committee to look at it before July 1st. Would be my.
Is there? I don't, I have no idea what your schedule is.
And I'll tell you, you know, like this, just again, using the DPW, the idea of a DPW project as a concept. There was a lot of discussion about trying to move forward and fully fund the design, and we said, well, hold on, you know, maybe we don't want to go that far yet. You know, let's take it in pieces, and we use the MSBA, you know, K-12 school process as a basis that I thought was useful. I can see that there's a lot of work that's been done here already. That's evident. You know, they've done the programming and the planning. They've, you know, sized things. They have a lot of information here. It might just be a little bit more detail that needs to be, you know, provided to a cost estimator, or pay a contractor to come in and develop pricing for you to be able to get a more accurate number. That would be an alternative. I'm not suggesting you know, pull up stakes and go in that direction. You know, I kind of feel like, you know, as a FinCom member, yeah, we're responsible for, you know, commenting on costs, but it's also, we also need to respond to, you know, the will of the select board. If they're, you know, if they really want to take this up and have it move forward, then ultimately it's a decision for the voters at town meeting.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, the I think part of speaking for the board and our discussions, you know, part
I
of.
don't speak for the board, I speak for me.
I'll speak for the board.
Go ahead.
Part of why the select board was in favor of adding this, and I know it's late in the process that we're in, but part of that is as we've gone through the negotiations with the Masons and looking back at the original negotiations of the purchase and sale, it was always that we weren't buying the building and then sitting with the building as is for a long period of time. There's desire on the town side to move quickly for a number of different reasons. There's desire on the Mason side to move quickly, and that is a factor or a part of the deal that we're negotiating with the Masons. So that was another kind of factor on the timing side of why, you know, we explored seeking earmark funding from the state to pay for the design, but ran into, you know, a limit on 100 to 150,000, and that wouldn't be, if approved, potentially for the next fiscal year. Typically, those earmarks you're not allowed to spend until after 9C cuts, which happens in January of next year. So that wasn't really fell into the timeline. We talked about fundraising, and Susan was, you know, having those quiet conversations to see if she could get some commitment to the tune of 350,000, and she's gotten some, but not that much. So, you know, and we also talked to, you know, Congressman Bolton's office, same thing, you know, the timing is just that even if we got money from them for design, it wouldn't come in until much later. So this was the way we had funds and we could move quickly on it and kind of stick to some of the commitments that were made as part of this.
Well, I'm trying to see if we can get this to move forward, because I think it's important in general, with some understandings about what the process will be as it goes forward. With the facilities committee, with the purchase and sale, with the fundraising. I mean, to me, those are the variables that I see. and the fundraising, I think we've got to give it a chance. I, I like many people here have done some fundraising and, you know, having the funds. I think getting them in it changes quite a bit if the town suddenly comes forward with a substantial amount of money and sort of seems to vitiate the need for the giving. So I
agree.
guess my
And-
question is, how can we put this together, Tony, so that we get some integration into the town building system and some time for the fundraising to have some results that.
We can catch, you know, the facility planning committee up to speed pretty quickly and have them be involved in the next part of the design phase. And then obviously after that, I think in speaking with Susan, I think, you know, when she's talking to fundraisers, you know, they want to fundraise for you know, construction. They don't really want to fundraise for design. They want their money going to brick and mortar. So I think that, you know,
So-
this step actually
So if we gave it
creates
a year or
motivation.
18 months or something, there should be, I mean, because this would be bricks and mortar.
It could come in faster than.
If
we
it
don't know.
goes to the facilities planning committee, then they can give input. And we don't necessarily have to spend all the 350, even if it's allocated. Okay, I mean, I think that we don't need to solve the problem tonight regarding the appropriation, because we're a ways away from that. Okay,
So what-
hold on just a minute, because Muffin Driscoll has been waiting patiently to
It's
make a comment.
necessarily my virtue. No. It's good to me that this become its own article. Because one of the things we love most about this town is we have a town meeting, form of government, and we talk about things on town meeting floor. If this is a standalone article, there can be conversation about it, and it passes or it doesn't. The need to have that public conversation, from my perspective, is very important for the fundraising aspect of all of this. Potential donors need to know that there's support across all generations in this town for this project. My opinion, my perspective. So if we can make it its standalone article, we all go talk about it. We pass over that article if there is not a signed, sealed, in the hands of God document the evening of town meeting. We just pass it over.
Yeah,
What,
or you
even
could,
need an
you could
explanation.
have I mean, hopefully it's signed and sealed by then, but you could even have a contingency that the appropriation is subject to.
If that's what was decided on.
Tony, we did that last year. I mean, I think that we're 2 years into this. And, you know, I think it needs to be signed and sealed before town meeting, or we should pass over.
My goal is before printing of your book.
I do, yeah, our-
You've heard it here.
Because, well, the other thing is, what we should be voting on tonight is whether or not to support the article, the
Correct.
finance committee, so if we say no, how does that look? Are we better off not even having it than just having it and saying no,
We have to look at all the other.
right?
So how should we proceed?
So is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to participate in this discussion briefly? So raise your hand in Zoom. It's a good night. I don't see anybody raising their hand.
Lucky.
Okay, so are we in agreement that we feel it needs to be a separate article?
Yes.
Okay.
Good with that.
I'm fine with everything, but the select board will be meeting and
On the 30th, so.
on the
But
30th.
I'll have these adjustments made and sent to
Yeah.
you, you know, by Monday. And
Good.
so that way, hey, what is going in the book is what the select board is signing off on the 30th for print, for posting.
Is our meeting on the 30th?
We were meeting on the 30th.
Yeah.
And Tony, can we get to the facilities and do some, I mean, I don't know, how often do you meet? I just, I don't know anything, the dynamic.
Monthly maybe.
Well, I
That's
think
much
that's
going on.
just for Tony. We.
Okay.
I think we don't need to micromanage it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So Sarah, is your thought that the warrant article will be put together for our next meeting a week from today? And we would vote on that with a recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, as you've stated, I think it's good to have a hard number in there as opposed to number to be determined on town meeting floor. But
On Monday.
And-
It'll be 350.
exactly.
Does the
Yeah.
finance committee recommend approval for spending $350,000
Actually, with
for
the-
design progress on the senior center?
Yes.
I want to get facilities involved because it's gonna help me making that decision.
Sir.
Yeah.
Well, they're not gonna be involved before we have to make the decision. But just because the 350,000 is appropriated does not mean it has to be spent.
But in deciding whether we're for or against something.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate some guidance from people who look at building stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Ready.
So I don't feel like we're really ready to vote on the warrants until we have a final warrant.
It's up to you. The warrant, everything's there. The only thing that is gonna change is number 18 out of Article 5 will become its own numbered article. And I may move Tappan Street down in the list of capital items, but that's gonna change the number on the article.
On the school article, do we normally have only one warrant article and 3 motions?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I wasn't sure.
I think Pam usually gets up and speaks to all three, right?
She does.
In
Before we
sequence.
make recommendations on any of these warrant articles, we need the numbers. We need to know the dollar amount we're recommending, and this is just generic. There's not dollar amounts.
Oh, you mean, I know what she means.
Yeah, for those two that we talked about.
Like how it looks in the book. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I got you.
You
So-
need that. The
Operating number of the day.
I had a
Other-
question about that.
The other question I had was with respect to some of these capital articles. The PFAS one goes into all this stuff about being offset by grants and all these other possible funding sources, but then we get to like the culvert. And it's my understanding, we've applied for a grant and there's no mention of offsetting it by grants. Can we do that?
The PFAS language is specifically required by the SRF program. So we got that language from bond council through SRF. And we included our standard language as well, because we may not go through SRF. It depends on how the bids come back a couple weeks prior to town meeting. So we basically put language for both borrowing opportunities. But we could,
I'm just wondering if you can reference
for the culvert,
grants.
I could ask
Yeah,
legal counsel if we could add some language in there that I'll have to ask.
and same thing with the rotunda, other funding sources or something. I mean, there's still the possibility on the rotunda that depending on the timing of the construction, it's possible there's an opportunity for another year of money from CPC. If we haven't concluded the construction and issued the long-term bond by June of 27. I mean, we think we're going to, but we don't know.
Right, my standard usually is when we have a project, I have a certain like order of where I take funds from. So I always take like, cash in hand first and then, borrowing would be the last bucket. So if we were to get a grant, that would, supersede the bond bucket, if you will.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
can you give me
So-
the list of the order in which you go through things and I'll speak to it?
Sure.
Okay,
I agree with you, Senator, that some of these are things that we should speak to rather than putting in the book.
I hope I get more than 2 minutes.
Thanks to Eli.
Talk to Eli about that.
Okay,
So I had some questions on the wording.
for what?
So for Tappan Street, they mentioned that in the 4 million is mentioned resurfacing the street, but normally I think the resurfacing part comes from the 450,000 in the
No,
resurfacing budget.
not for
Is the
big
way Chuck
projects.
handles it usually.
That's not what he did for Pleasant Street. Everything came out of the article for Pleasant Street.
Okay, so then so the 450, it does not include. Tappan
That's
Street.
right, that's resurfacing of,
Yeah.
thanks for coming.
Okay. So,
That's for resurfacing of other things that are not part of the huge projects where they replace the water and sewer.
right, okay. And the
Right.
second one,
Correct.
okay, the second one was like, it sounds like when they're saying excluding funding within the cap, that it means it's like outside the funding of the cap, but most of these are gonna be within the cap, right?
No, these are debt exclusions.
All of them.
Yes,
Outside the cap.
correct. So there's two caps. There's the 2.5%, which is the cap on the operating budget increase each year plus growth. That is a general, called a Prop 2.5 override. Then every project which has long-term debt and we're issuing a debt exclusion, that is an override for the duration of the project.
So I thought we were gonna designate a lot of this stuff, the debt be funded within the cap, other operating costs.
No. The whole point of going after the bonding, which is why we have the spreadsheet, which is showing us the possible impact on the tax rate, is that this is being funded from debt exclusions. Now, the actual amount funded will be different than these numbers. This is the maximum they need to go out to bid on the project. Then the bid comes in for the project, and then all these other monies we're gonna get from the sky will reduce them, and then the actual amount we fund is what it costs us to build. But we're authorizing this amount, which is why we have, for another project, are we using that million?
The dredge?
Yeah,
No,
okay,
I don't believe. Yeah.
okay.
I thought the finance committee wasn't interested in doing that. I think it was,
It was complicated.
it's complicated
Yeah.
explaining it to the residents.
So what
that
we
way.
need to do is we need to circle back around on projects once she issues the long-term bonds. And then go back to town meeting to reduce the appropriation for what we actually bond.
You
We
were
haven't
sent the
done that
authorization.
routinely, but that's something we need to do. Just to tighten things up. Any other things that you want addressed in these articles when they're final?
There was an issue I found out tonight that was upsetting, and that is, Lyon has started construction of the floats for this Reed Park expansion that we haven't even voted on yet, and I'm wondering how
Reed-
he can do that.
Reed Park is 100% paid by grants. It's not on this.
But
Reed Park
it
is not
doesn't,
on
we
this.
haven't gotten the grant yet. We haven't voted to accept the grant. We haven't voted to match the grant yet.
We don't have a match on the grant.
There's
It-
113,000 that we have to pay.
That's Morse Pier.
Morse here.
That's not Reed Park. They're two separate, we have nothing in the capital budget for Reed Park. Am I correct?
Correct.
But see, that grant, we only approved the application. And, you know, it's just the tip of the iceberg on operating costs down the road
The Reed
for
Park.
that expansion. That's gonna be stricken out of the town meeting.
I don't believe it's a finance committee function to accept grants.
Right, if the select board, well, the town does it, doesn't,
Right,
but it's not on the warrant.
it's not on the warrant. He certainly has the ability to start construction on that. It's funded through the grant.
Did the town meeting accept the grant last year?
Select board would accept a grant. There wouldn't be a town meeting vote.
Okay,
It seems like an
Okay,
article we're
select board,
voting on in town meeting. Reed Park expansion, it's an article we're voting on in town meeting.
no, we are not. Reed Park is not in,
It's included in in the language, isn't it?
no, Morse Pier is in this year's budget, Reed Park is not. If you look, what?
Okay, I didn't bring the wording with me, I'll have to double check. but I
Morse
thought-
Pier and Harbor Improvements, but
And harbor improvements.
the, no, the match is for the grant we received for Morse Pier.
Well, I think this town is being played like a symphony as the residents get kicked out of their own harbor. And I think it's atrocious. So that's all I'll say about that.
So we're gonna put numbers into this as much as we can. Is that correct?
Yes. Sarah, when we get the final version next week, is that when we sort of go through and say, we're
Favor or not?
we're gonna make a comment on this, or we're not gonna make a comment on this?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you wanna go through some tonight and say, well,
No,
we're
if
not
it's
gonna
not,
make
if
it?
it's not ready, I think it's,
The problem
I
we've
think,
had
can we tackle it next week
Yeah.
early in the agenda?
in prior years is we've gone through the warrant,
And then it
we've made
changes.
approvals, and then all the numbers change.
What, Sarah, what is the strategy as far as like, suppose, so we'll get to this article, the new article about senior housing plan, it's gonna say, we wanna spend some money. This is a lot. And if we can afford it without like a no right or anything. Is our strategy to opine and say. Yeah, we can afford it, so if you want, go ahead, or we don't opine because it's just really a voter's choice, like.
No,
we wanna spend the
we,
Money,
we make a recommendation on every financial article. On the zoning articles, we'll say we don't take a position.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what
I'm saying
was
it's just a
historically
clear
done.
choice, like we wanna spend $5,000 on something. It's financial, but it doesn't really matter.
Everything
It's kind of a-
matters.
It's kind of a voter's choice.
No, we feel, I don't think that's the approach we take.
Okay.
I think our approach is we're telling the taxpayer whether the finance committee feels this is a reasonable item to spend taxpayer money on. And it's up for the taxpayers to determine whether they agree with us or not.
Kind of vetted it, you're saying. basically.
Yes, yeah. And then if we're not gonna recommend something, then I have to be able to explain it at town meeting as to why we don't recommend it, but we haven't had things recently that we haven't
And
recommended.
sometimes we get into gray areas, like,
Right,
I think a year or two ago, there was a thought process of, should the town be involved with taking care of trees that were the typical 11 feet from the center of the road out to 17 feet? And when we figured out how many more trees were added to the responsibilities, like 2,000. So that was suddenly like an expense element that we didn't want to go there. And I mean, I don't know, I haven't read these articles carefully enough, but if something popped up that had a significant impact on tax revenue, we might want to think about that.
Yeah,
But
that's the revenue side, yeah.
So on this one about the US Constitution,
oh, I would think,
Citizen petition, yeah.
I mean, do
I-
we take a position on that? or-
I would think there's no financial
Implication.
implication, so
Okay, all right, good.
we would
Except for fighting a food
normally
Yeah,
take no position.
It would just be hard not to take a position on that Article 18 for the senior center if it were to appear.
we have to take a position on that. We have to either say yes or no. Yes. Any financial thing, we have to take a position whether we want to or not.
So it'll be appropriate next week. I have some questions on these, but I'll hold that until we have the discussion next week on the warrant. Is that?
Unless there's questions that are gonna impact the way they're written, then we should discuss them tonight.
Well,
We have no time for changes next week.
Tony, what is Article 24 all about? I'm sorry, just unfamiliar with what 24 is all about. It's to convey a piece of land.
On the street, yeah.
What's that all about?
This was a resident that, came to the select board to, well,
A property
a
owner.
property owner that, came to the select board and requested, that the ability to purchase this abutting 900 square foot property that we own.
I see.
And, in order to do that, you need a town meeting vote to
Right.
authorize the surplus of it.
There was a long history behind it.
And I believe we retain the right to go across the property to maintain the seawall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we buy it for $350,000 on the senior center?
Sell it for 350. I don't know. I don't know if it'll go-
Horse trade.
Is there a number, Tony, for the 910 square feet?
We have, we would be required to get, well, the,
Assessed value.
yeah, assessed value will be identified here, but for town meeting, because that question will come up,
Appraisal or assessment?
Uh,
We'll have both.
assess, and then if approved, they would be required to pay for an appraisal.
Maybe we kind of need a cash number, right?
What?
A cash number.
Yeah, so we would go off of, we'll have an assessed value
In or our warrant article.
for town meeting. That, and the appraisal value is gonna be pretty close to that, where it's just
Okay.
land,
They pay the appraisal value, the appraised
they
value.
pay for the
Basically,
appraisal.
we need a hard number that probably gonna get them this much money.
Is this the right of way from the end of Sawmill Circle to Morse Street?
No,
Okay.
No, it's
Is that
just
the more-
it's the first little corner of grass as Sawmill Brook starts to turn around the houses on the right side.
Elm Street on the west side, east side.
East side, okay. Yep.
There's a,
One Elm.
there's a plan that identifies it. That'll be an appendix as well to the book.
Thank you.
Any
So
other
I'll,
questions?
just so you know, what I'll do is what I'll do for that, for the senior center, I'll make that Article 6, I'll have it come right after Article 5. And then I'll bump everything down.
Okay, yep. Before we get into schools. Okay. Did you have any other questions, Peter?
No.
Okay.
This evening.
Did anybody have any questions of Tony on this warrant? Okay. Because I expect that next week we'll vote on it. With no change, I mean, it's gotta go to print.
Yep.
I'm in deep trouble. FinCom book, is that the next time? Oh, Tony or Andrea, do you have anything you wanted to raise? No, okay. We're not gonna get to the long-term capital budget review, I guess. Is that right? One thing
Out anyway.
yes, I mean, one of the things I distributed to you, I think it was today. I don't think I was clever enough to send it yesterday, was the bond information for the Essex Elementary
You did.
School.
Yes, yes.
And I asked Andrea to incorporate that into this spreadsheet. Even though
Okay.
the numbers are certainly not definite. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
they assumed an $80 million project. Andy said that was a little more than he heard.
Before or after MSBA.
Before. They bonded 56.3, so they assumed 1/3 from MSBA,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna come with these more often.
What's your name?
Could tell them. Oops, I have an extra copy.
Where is the FinCom book? Was that?
Right here.
Okay,
Last year's. Where,
yeah,
I
is
think the
there,
draft of the,
Is there a draft yet? No.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
there you go, yeah.
Got it, thanks.
But I did want to go through the charts from last year and see if there's any changes we want. Okay, that's what I wanted to do tonight. So this second page. So I had written up kind of the explanation of calculating the tax rate and the bond stuff. But I'm gonna explain the capital projects. Do we want this table to go in the book
Way too complicated.
with the capitals? What?
Way too complicated.
Way too
What
complicated?
if you reference the website, had it there where it's easier to digest? This print is pretty small.
Yeah.
Now you put it into this size format, you're gonna need a microscope to read it.
That's the point.
Yes,
What you're doing here.
So just put a bad link in.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll be.
I think reference the website, sounds like a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
okay. Well, so this will be. Okay.
We might be able to condense it in a sentence or something like, you know.
Oh, I'm,
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
I have, yeah. I think I sent something out last week or something like that. Okay. And this is. So. Our estimated tax rate increase for fiscal year 27 is 1.75%. Okay. And then we have no, and that includes all the debt service on these capital projects.
Yes.
Because it's interest only. Right? So there's no additional taxes for these capital projects for fiscal year 27. What a deal. Our taxes are only gonna go up 1.75%. How am I gonna explain that? But a chunk of that is the capital exclusion is decreased. Right.
So that 1.75 doesn't include the capital exclusion,
It does not.
does not.
Is there other stuff it does not include?
Just the capital exclusion. It includes all like the previous debt. It doesn't include any of these borrowings below either.
But aren't the borrowings included in the debt service we're approving or not? I thought you
Portions of it,
had,
yes,
I thought you had
Just the
interest
interest
into the
only.
band.
interest only. So I need to move this column over. I included too much in the FY 27. I'll update and resend.
Okay. Right, so because I want to be able to differentiate between what's actually gonna hit in the tax rate fiscal year 27 and what will ultimately hit in subsequent years when we take out the long-term bonds.
A question for you on this chart.
Which chart?
This is on,
The effect on.
and I gotta look for the one with a little band in the middle.
It's the page.
Yeah, I only want the 1 million. I don't want the others. There's.
But I'm wondering, are the dates up above? We have fiscal year 2021, 22. Shouldn't those be future? You're not trying to estimate something from the past.
This is the history.
Yeah, this was,
Hey,
we put
Yeah, I
this
think-
together to show, this was part of exercise we were doing with the select board to kind of show the history of the tax bill or the tax rate. And the tax bill for those value homes going back. And then it has FY 27. It's yours?
No.
Mine doesn't
No,
have
I-
27, so,
I think I copied over it. Sorry.
oh, all right.
The one that we ended up. The one
Sorry
we
about
ended up
Got it,
going.
okay.
I would put it at the top,
27.
this is the
Yeah.
tax rate.
So you're trying to
Yeah.
show the
Yeah.
trend.
But this isn't gonna go in the book.
Oh,
And we-
I'll still update it, send it out.
Well,
Sure.
this is actually the actual tax.
Tax bill.
Yeah, here's the
Tax
part.
amount.
History.
Tax rate is up there.
Yeah, and I thought she might say the tax rate.
Don't you think out of an
Yeah.
abundance
That's
of
definitely something.
transparency, we should say,
That's
the
what-
estimated tax on this
You can direct
$1 million
people
house
to
is
it.
gonna be something, whatever, in twenty
Well,
twenty-seven.
that's what I do
Yeah.
in the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did have that, I think I must have pasted over it.
Okay, what is it?
Okay.
1.75% increase.
Which one for FY 27 for?
That's on page 2.
And I'm stupid, so tell me the
Well,
amount of
it's
the
FY
tax.
26 isn't here, so.
Let me tell me the amount of the tax on my $1 million house.
For FY 27, it's $8,852.
8,852.
That's the total.
Yeah, total annual.
Well, aren't these also all total
Yeah.
annuals?
Yeah.
So this makes us look like we're brilliant, right?
Well, it's up
The
to,
assessed values screaming upwards, so
the assessed values are increasing more rapidly than the 2.5% increase. So this is not, in my opinion, a good example.
Okay.
Your $1
misgiving.
million house last year could be 1 point something this year.
Oh, I see. So I'm no longer in that
Yeah.
$1 million category. Oh, I see.
So-
That's why it's hard to.
Thank you.
So what I like to talk
That's the
about
software.
is the increase in the tax rate.
yeah, right.
Um,
That's the way to think about it. That's what this whole entity is doing year to year to year. to year.
Right. yeah,
And then you can extrapolate where we're gonna be and
Yeah.
however many years you wanna go forward.
right. Cause it's. I haven't seen a decrease in my taxes. Maybe you have, but I haven't.
No, I haven't noticed that.
Even in the
myself.
years with zero increase, I didn't see a decrease in my taxes.
Congratulations, your house is worth a lot more.
Yeah, great if you wanna sell it.
That's why this makes us look brilliant.
Yeah, it does. It does make us look brilliant, but if you really know what's behind the curtain,
Hmm.
there's another story.
It's hard to show that. How that $1 million value grows.
Right.
Fairly, because not all houses grow in value the same way. So it's,
And we show this summary in the book, do we, about Article 5? I mean, I thought for Article 5, we normally had totals as to what came out from each funding source.
It's usually in the
Beneath it.
motion.
Is there a reason we can't put it in the printed copy? I hate
It'll
things
be-
being in a motion.
yeah,
I mean,
the printed copy of the book will look just like it always has.
What does that mean?
So if you had the explanation under Article 5 in the past that you're looking for,
Yeah.
what goes in the book?
Okay.
it's not there, I want it.
Oh, it wasn't. It
So it's
wasn't
been in the
there.
motion.
That's,
It's in the operating budget.
that all the motions were back.
Well, isn't all the capital this?
See, the operating budget has the funding
So it's-
sources summary. Article 5 does not,
What it's supposed to look.
and it would be nice to have it.
Capital,
Okay, we could do that, right?
As long
So,
as you don't
so
change it.
totaling up,
Yeah.
how much is coming from taxation, how
Yeah.
much is coming from fund
Fund
balance?
balance, yeah, we have it here. We have it on the spreadsheet here.
But all of Article 5 as a capital exclusion.
No. Only the separate warrant articles that are a bond exclusion.
There you go.
If you look at Article 5, you'll see that 1.3 million is out of current taxation. 225,000 is from fund balance. And 29.5 million is borrowing. But the thing that bothers me, and I'm sure we've always done it, is the ones that we're borrowing for are not on the Article 5 list because they're separate warrant articles.
The vote is different. I think one of the reasons why we haven't put a summary of like the funding sources for Article 5 is
Yeah.
that like. When we went to vote it, it would be, numbers like 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7 are to be funded by taxation and, it just takes up a lot of space.
No,
That's why
I'm just talking a total.
just like in like for Article 4, like how we do in Article 4, you'd want
Yeah.
under Article
Like we
5.
did last year.
Yeah, total fund balance, total taxation. Yeah,
It's really the totals that matter, each individual item, it's just accounting.
because otherwise I
It
gotta,
is. But if, in case someone holds and like doesn't approve
That's
one, then
true.
it changes all the numbers and you have.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
this is not valid if somebody changes things.
Right.
Right? And like from this, I don't know how much we spent on the waterway fund.
From Article,
5. Yeah, it just says
Right.
fund balance and waterway fund, so I don't know what the breakdown is. So I just think that's helpful, if it's possible. Okay. Andy's gonna be reading me the right, I think, so.
It's the witching hour.
Okay. So. On the booklet, you probably don't have the booklet with you. But I just kind of wanted to go through the charts a little bit. Do we want all the same charts?
That's probably the first part of the book.
I think it allows you to compare one year to the next if you're
Okay,
these things like I do. So,
but I was wondering if,
We are the citizens.
so the charts are budgeted expenses with the little pie charts and the total dollars, expenditures, same thing.
I
Town
think they're
department.
worth it.
Expenses by department. Summary town expenses, salaries, expenses, health insurance, debt service, revenues. Estimated local receipts,
Keep having that graph.
non-property tax revenue. Property taxes and non-property tax revenue. Then we get to reserves as a percentage of total operating budget. There's percents, but no dollars. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah.
The chart 10, current MBTA debt, total amount outstanding. I'm wondering on that if you can put dollar amounts in,
and on that one,
just millions. I mean, you know,
yeah.
like one.
and that's just town debt, not, it does not include school. As well.
So can you put a parenthesis excluding
Yes.
school?
Yes.
And just,
So like that.
if you can put the numbers in, because I just find this bar chart. I have to go and say, okay, now where does this bar come and where does this bar come? What's the difference?
Do we add the school debt too? I mean, why would you have just the town?
Because the school does their own reporting.
Yeah,
But we know what we owe, right?
pretty predictable.
we gotta pay it.
That's 50% of the budget.
Do we want to add the school debt?
At least a
Like its own
summary.
chart,
What?
its own chart.
Yeah.
Or we can just add another bar alongside
Yeah.
each bar, like have 2 bars for each year. One school.
Or rather than one chart.
How many
two bars.
would you like?
The only, like, the 2 bars can,
It's confusing.
well, especially because you can do like color.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Let's do a separate
You
chart
figure
for
that
the
out.
school debt. Yeah.
What color?
So this chart next year
Yes.
might look sort of like this, but all these numbers on the vertical axis are gonna change a lot, right?
No,
Well, the year after.
not next year because
Yeah.
we won't have gone.
Right,
through
but the year
Now we
after,
dance.
there'll be,
And you'll have a mountain climbing up the other side.
right, right. So I'm just thinking about down the road.
I didn't.
You're gonna have troubles comparing because
I don't know.
this is gonna show 7 million and then the other chart's gonna look the same and it's gonna be 50 million.
50 million. But I think it's good to get the school one on the table now,
Yeah, as a separate chart and
in a
then-
year and ahead of where it's gonna be a year or two from now. Well, after the bans have come through and all that. We've finished up those.
So do you want me to, on that chart for the school debt, do you want me to include the estimates for the Essex Elementary? Because historically I have not.
No, I would.
Yeah, historically
No, no.
I've just done whatever's been
just
bonded so
actual
far.
debt, because
Actual.
for the town, you have the actual debt.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
no,
Yeah, I
just the
didn't do a-
actual current outstanding.
My
debt.
comment
Wanna
was
make sure.
more in context of what do we print in 2026? in anticipation of somebody looking back at this in 2028 or 30.
We're gonna
Not
burn-
that people do that, but
We're gonna burn all the books.
yes.
Yeah, right after the
You
meeting.
can have a book
I
sale.
have to go
after
through a zip wall to get to mine. I have to go through a zip wall to find my
We
passport.
probably should give some warning about a special town meeting and the budget perspective coming looming. Because it's within FY 27. That this town meeting and decision. Maybe an estimate.
I mean, I think, Sarah, you're talking to capital and debt and long-term debt. You can't have a long-term debt discussion for the town without asterisking or mentioning school.
Right.
I mean, so this will come out.
And we're not gonna put this 20-year facility capital plan on this year. Because we haven't discussed it.
I'm leery of committing the 20 years of numbers because so much is gonna change in the next 10 years.
We have,
We do
we
have
have
the
the
5.
5-year.
We have the 5-year.
Okay, we feel good about that. I mean, we have good numbers.
I believe so.
Okay.
What we had for this year 3 years ago.
Okay. Why is that way in the front?
Because usually Greg does a little, or did a little summary about it.
It's right after the FinCom report. I don't know. Well. This isn't that long. He wants me to make it shorter. I said, "What's that then?" I am gonna.
I was the one that urged that it be shorter, so.
Okay. So I hear it's supposed to rain this weekend, so hopefully there'll be a FinCom report draft early next week. I finished my last ZBA decision today.
By the way, they moved that shed.
I told you. I said-
Amazing. I walked by it
You
yesterday.
removed it.
Incredible. So the ZBA does have teeth.
Yeah, he removed it.
Pretty good.
Unbelievable. Sometimes a
It's
rock.
been gone for several weeks. I think he must have removed it. There was a whole pound of snow there, so he did before the storm, snow.
Amazing.
I've heard from talking around other towns that a lot of towns are preparing for overrides this year. Might not
Yeah.
hurt to give a relative with what other towns are doing, because I think this tariff stuff is affecting everyone.
Yeah, I try to kind of give a summary of kind of where we're headed and. You know. I'm gonna have to explain why the tax increase is so low. This is
Because everything's being
deceptive.
mortgaged with bonds. Maybe we should pay cash more.
Um,
The interest.
Andrea also put together, I don't know if you want the data for it or another chart, but she also put together a tax bill breakdown by government function. So, you know, a percentage of your tax bill, 16, I think it's 6.6 goes to general government, which equals $1,475 out of your total 8,000. I don't know if you want that.
No, I don't want dollars. I mean, she's got the percentage,
We sort of have this
the
in chart 3, don't we?
expenditure
In chart
percentage.
4.
Chart 2,
It's by percentage.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
okay.
yeah, the funding sources predominantly it's mostly taxation, but these charts, you know,
Yeah.
expense, chart 3 and 4, basically kind of say, well, what goes into general government, what's
Yeah,
in.
it's-
I have with dollars is because the assessments change every year, you don't really know what the dollars
Yeah,
are going to be. And so it just seems to be much easier to kind of say, okay, your taxes are gonna increase 1.75%, you know, but will be impacted by the assessments.
Mhm.
You know, your assessment goes up too much and gotta be nice to Michelle. Uh,
Well,
No. Any liaison updates? No. Minutes from March 12th.
Good to me.
I read them, fine,
That's fine.
It's fine.
I
So
was
Peter
really, I
has
was
a
really
motion
quite
to
impressed.
approve and Gar seconds?
yes.
Yes.
Any discussion? Take a vote. Maury,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Gar,
Yes,
Dean,
Yes.
John,
Stay.
Andy, and Sarah votes yes. Thank you. So our next meeting is March 26th. At which point we'll be doing the warrant
Mm-hmm.
and the booklet. And I'm supposed to have the booklet in some type of condition before that meeting, so it can be put up on SharePoint, huh?
that'd be good.
Okay,
I will be
Here
zooming
we go.
on the 26th.
okay.
And just run me through the meetings after the 26th,
April 16th.
April 16th.
And then,
Not before the town meeting and then
and
just.
then-
So it's gonna be a pre-town meeting.
Yeah.
was that town meeting 27th?
Yes.
Yeah, I asked Eli if he, you know, for that
Or pre-town meeting,
moderators meeting, if he wanted, I guess traditionally it's been done
Saturday?
Saturday. I asked him if he wanted to do it Thursday night, so that would be the 23rd.
Okay, usually
Just 'cause
just the
that-
chair goes to that. Usually not, the whole FinCom goes to that.
Curious citizens.
That's when we have our meeting, Thursday nights.
But we're not meeting on that Thursday.
He hasn't got back to me anyways, whatever
Okay,
works for you guys.
The 16th, we're having the auditor and the OPEB is that gonna be a problem if we have fires with the warrant articles? Should that be
What?
finished by? The warrant articles will be set by then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They're going to book next
It'll be-
week.
this is
Delivered.
The 16th,
this is an interim year for OPEB.
Dan is still coming up,
He's coming,
but it's.
but
not
it's an
set.
interim year. He won't have an actual report, you know, updated report for June 30th, 25. Because that's an off year.
No.
But he'll talk and say how good we are.
We have actuarial stuff.
And the auditors would be here as well, just.
Yeah,
Typical.
town auditors and Dan on the 16th. I'm hoping we can have the fiscal year Q3 report. And then we'll do any town meeting prep we need to do.
Yeah, when I talked to the auditors and Dan, like they, most likely they'll be both remote, but Dan might make it in person.
Okay. And that will be first on the agenda. Okay. Anything else anybody wishes to raise?
No, thanks.
I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Quick.
All in favor?
My favorite.
Fine.
Thank you.
Myself.